Alright, so Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been out for a couple days now, and I, like many other people, have just been playing the ever-living mess out of this incredible game. And there's so many things that I really love about this game, and I'm seeing a ton of people online talking about. And despite some of its downfalls in terms of the graphics and a couple other areas, it does seem like this is the perfect Final Fantasy game. And what I mean by that is it's the perfect kind of epitome of all these different aspects that these past Final Fantasies have kind of been building on, and it's such a great mashup of all of those. So in this video, I just kind of want to talk about what I personally think is the best part of the game. And so far for me, it's not the story, because I'm only on chapter 4, and yet I have about 11, almost 12 hours in the game, which sounds like a lot, because it is, because this game has so many things to do. And I'm actually surprised I've been doing a lot in this open world, because for me, and I think for a lot of other people, it seems like the open world is one of the best parts of this game. And I say one of because it's, I think, a good 50% as to why people have been loving it so much. And the other 50% being the battle system, which I will go very much into here in a minute. But first, yeah, the open world in this game, it's nothing necessarily special or nothing necessarily new to the open world genre. And it's technically not even really open world. It's kind of like little hub open world zones that you can travel in between. I'm only just not getting to the second one. And again, I'm almost 12 hours in, and I've spent almost 8-9 hours in the first main hub area, the grasslands. And like I said, there's nothing necessarily new that this is adding to the open world genre, right? You have your typical side quests of just going to an area, killing things, acquiring data, going to the towers to reveal other areas on the map. Very traditional open world stuff that we've had for years now, but here in Final Fantasy VII Remake, it feels special. And I can't really place a finger on it, but I think it has to do with the fact that the art direction and the cast of characters that you're with are just so charming and unique that it makes traversing this world that is in of itself really gorgeous, even if the graphics aren't necessarily up to snuff for 2024. It's still a joy to wander through on foot or on Chocobo. I think that's really what the open world little hubs have going for it, because Final Fantasy has always been known for its charm. And here you can actually walk through much of the different land and see different people in the cities. The first city in particular you come to is Calm, and is immediately one of the most charming and unique locations I've been in the game. It just has so much love and care put into every little detail, and I don't know, I think all of that comes together and makes this, pretty traditional quote-unquote open world experience shine, because it lives inside of a Final Fantasy game. And we've had open world Final Fantasies before, namely Final Fantasy 15. It was an open world with pretty much nothing in it, except killing monsters, and that was about it. No really unique quests or cool areas to uncover, or, just mysteries to explore. And Rebirth, there's kind of a bit of that. There's certainly more than 15, but it's not like an Elden Ring style of mysteries to uncover. But it's enough that it's there that you want to walk around and see what might be around the corner. It might be just some monsters to kill, it might be something hidden that only your Chocobo can find, or just some materials that you can use to craft more potions. And as far as the other 50% of the reason that I really love this game, and it seems like other people really do as well, is the battle system. Now, I mentioned how the open world aspects kind of take inspiration from Final Fantasy 15 and is a really solid implementation of that here in Rebirth. I don't know, honestly, if other people are going to agree with this, but it seems to me like the combat here in Remake is a really good blend of Rebirth's kind of still turn-based but still hack and slash mixed combat, mixed with a lot of elements from Final Fantasy 13, which, if you don't know much about, Final Fantasy 13 is historically one of the most unpopular Final Fantasy games in the history, mainly due to its extreme linearity, confusing story, all of that. I've been playing that game off and on for the last couple months, just whenever I, get the urge, because it's a really fun game. It's very confusing for sure. It's very linear, certainly, but I really like the combat because there's a lot of expression that you can have in different character builds, different systems, particularly in one called a Paragon system, where you can assign different characters roles and you can swap in and out in battle, and you can make one super medic focus where they will immediately heal you after you attack, or one kind of more like a follow-up thing. Well, they will follow up on an enemy after your character attacks. So Rebirth doesn't implement that exact same thing, but it does something super similar, because in this game, as opposed to Remake, they've added these synergy abilities that are super reminiscent of the Paragon system in Final Fantasy XIII, where once you use enough of two party members' ATB, you can then kind of activate the synergy ability. And you unlock these through, they're called folios, but it's just basically a skill tree essentially, that you can progress as your party levels up. But these are just really cool tag team abilities. Like one has Tifa jumping off of Cloud's Buster Sword, ramming herself into other enemies. One has Barrett picking up Red 13 and just throwing him at whoever the target is. Like, not only is this really freaking cool and honestly hilarious at times, but it adds to a level of complexity in the battle system. And then there's these like pseudo synergy abilities that you can use anytime you have one of your ATB bars full, and those are also just very cool, and they're like synergy light abilities. So that as a whole really adds to the complexity in the battle system here. But you also have so much more customization, I found, with materia this time around as opposed to Remake. And more importantly, the combat here in Rebirth is much more tactful than I think it was in a Remake. It feels reminiscent of the original Final Fantasy VII in the earlier games, where you had to be really tactful and have a lot of strategy on what abilities you used, on what enemies, knowing their weaknesses, etc. And I find myself having to exploit enemies' weaknesses way more, having to use assess way more, and trying to effectively pressure and stagger them way more than in Remake. And I'm saying that as someone who I did recently replay Remake to kind of prepare for Rebirth. And in Remake, you can really just kind of spam your normal attacks on basic enemies, get your ATB up, and just spam Braver or Fire or whatever Cloud's big abilities are, or his like operator mode, which is very, not necessarily overpowered, but it's very, very good in Remake. And you did have to kind of know enemy weaknesses and stagger and all that, especially on certain enemies and bosses in Remake. But here I'm finding I'm having to do that on just basic level enemies, or even just small side quest bosses that would not have been a problem and that weren't a problem in Remake. But where here I had to really figure out who in my party would be best to go up against this certain enemy and what materia they would need, and strategically plan around whatever the enemy is. And I think that is one reason I'm really loving this game as a whole, because I feel much more in control of combat, but also not in control at certain points. If I come across a new enemy, I'm like scrambling to try and figure out, okay, what materia do I need? What is its weakness? Which party members would be best for that? Because something really cool is outside of combat, you can switch between little different parties you've made, because you have all of the party members, but you can only have 3 in your party at a time. So you can kind of create different builds and all that. It's just really incredible. And it's something that Final Fantasy really, I think, does well when it does it well, but it was absent from Final Fantasy 16 for sure, and kind of absent from 15 as much as I played that. But this level of customization in your party and your materia it's just done so well, and really encourages more exploration and fighting, which then encourages you to have more customization, and to get more customization you can go explore and fight, and it's kind of just steamrolls into itself. So that's why I've just found myself playing this game for hours and hours on end. Certainly not to the joy of my wife. And just a couple small things I have been really loving of added my experience that I forgot to mention. Red 13 as a playable character is absolutely incredible. He is so much fun. I wasn't really sure how I was going to like his character kit, but he is so fun. He can go across the battlefield so quickly. His abilities are just insane. He can turn into like a little somersault of fire. It's crazy. He's so much fun to play as, and he's just like such a funny, quirky character. I love him already. And another thing that makes this game literally game of the year is not only can you ride the chocobos, you can pet little baby chocobos, and it makes me so happy. Go pet a chocobo. And I'm sure the story is going to pick up, absolutely, but for now, I'm just enjoying walking and exploring on foot, or like I said, on a chocobo in this open world, fighting enemies and just having a good time with my party members, and I'm okay with that right now, and I'll progress the story, at my own pace. I think that's a really good thing to do in a game like this. I could just blitz the story, or I can do what I'm doing and enjoy the ride, as it were. With any games, but especially with Final Fantasy games, you only play them once. So if you're playing the game or you haven't played it yet, I would encourage you to, as much as you want to, seek out small side quests and do what you want, and don't just blitz the story. And if you're finding any other aspects of the game really enjoyable for you that I didn't mention, be sure to comment them. I would love to hear and share what we're all enjoying about this game. And I'm going to go get back to playing Rebirth, so I hope you have a fantastic day. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, stick around for all gaming content, video essays, etc. But for now, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.